Hey everyone, this is David, and if you're receiving Supplemental Security Income or SSI, or you know someone who does, or perhaps you're on Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, and worried about how all these benefits tie together, then please stay with me for this important update as we approach the end of 2025. We're talking about a massive wave of payments, ranging from $2,176 to as much as $3,354 hitting bank accounts on December 31st, 2025. This is what many are calling the final financial bridge of the year for millions of Americans who depend on these payments to make ends meet. I see questions pouring in every day from folks who are confused, anxious, or just wanting clear answers about why this specific amount is coming when it is, what it means for their January budget, and how the new 2026 cost of living adjustments will affect their monthly bottom line. Let me break this down for you slowly and carefully, because I know how stressful it can be when you're living on a fixed income and counting every dollar for rent, groceries, medicine, or utilities. This isn't about hype or rumors. It's about giving you the straightforward details drawn from official schedules and resources so you can plan ahead without unnecessary worry. First, let's talk about why this December 31st payment is happening at all and why the numbers are so high this time. SSI payments are normally scheduled for the first of each month. That's the standard rule. But when the first falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, the Social Security Administration moves the payment to the last business day of the previous month to ensure you get your money on time without having to wait extra days. January 1st, 2026 is New Year's Day, a federal holiday, so the January SSI payment shifts earlier to December 31st, 2025. This means many recipients will see two deposits in December. But the reason we are seeing figures like $2,176 and $3,354 is because of concurrent benefits. This is when a person receives both SSDI and SSI. Because the new 2.8% COLA is being applied to both programs simultaneously in this January check, the combined total hitting your account on the 31st represents the new higher 2026 rate. I want to emphasize this clearly. The December 31st deposit is not an extra bonus or a stimulus. It's simply your regular January payment, now with the 2026 increase arriving a day early because of the holiday calendar. Now, who exactly does this impact? This video is especially for anyone receiving SSI, but also for those dual eligible beneficiaries who receive SSDI alongside it. If you're a senior over 65 relying on SSI to supplement a small SSDI or retirement benefit, this affects you. If you're a disabled adult, perhaps unable to work due to a physical condition or long-term illness, this timing and the new 2000 pluses payment range matter deeply for your household. If you're a parent or guardian receiving SSI on behalf of a child with a qualifying disability, you're in this group too. And let's not forget veterans. Many veterans with service-connected disabilities receive SSI alongside VA benefits, and this double December situation applies to you as well. Millions fall into these categories. Over 7 million Americans receive SSI alone or in combination, and for many, this upcoming deposit represents the primary way to cover basic needs when other income sources fall short. Let me take a moment to explain the payment dates and the math behind these $2,000 to $3,000 figures in more detail. For 2026, the federal maximum for an individual on SSI rises to $994, and for couples, it's $1,491. However, for those on SSDI, the average payment is often much higher. When you add a maximum SSI payment to a mid to high range SSDI benefit, you reach that $2,176 to $3,354 total. In December 2025, you should have already received your regular December payment. Then, because January 1st is a holiday, the next payment, for January, arrives on December 31st. After that, there won't be another SSI deposit until January 30th, 2026, because the February payment shifts early since February 1st is a Sunday. This creates a unique rhythm where you get a large sum at the end of the year, but then you must make it last through the month of January. If you're getting paper checks instead of direct deposit, add a few mailing days, but most folks now have direct deposit, which means funds often appear as soon as the sun rises on the 31st. Moving into the core of this update, the adjustments arriving with that January payment on December 31st, the 2.8% cost of living adjustment, COLA, is the absolute driver behind these new numbers. For those of you who might be new to this, the COLA is an annual increase mandated by law. It's designed as a safety net to ensure your benefits keep pace with the rising costs of surviving, things like food, housing, and energy. For 2026, this 2.8% increase means a federal maximum bump of about $27 for individuals and $41 for couples on SSI. On paper, it looks like progress, but let's pause here and acknowledge the elephant in the room. While the government uses a specific formula to calculate this, I hear from you in the comments every single day. And I know that for many of you, 2.8% feels like it's barely touching the surface. We have to be honest. Inflation doesn't hit everyone the same way. If you are living on a fixed income, a 2.8% raise often feels like it's already spent before it even hits your account. I hear stories constantly about how local rents have jumped by $100 or $200 in a single year, far outstripping a $27 increase. I see the frustration when you go to the grocery store and realize that the price of basic staples like bread, milk, eggs, and ground beef seems to climb every single week. When the price of a dozen eggs goes up 20%, a 2.8% boost to your check doesn't even cover the breakfast on your table. Then there are the hidden costs of winter. We are heading into the coldest months of the year. Utilities, electricity, heating oil, and water are bills that simply do not wait. In northern and colder states, the cost of keeping your home at a safe temperature can easily eat a massive chunk of this $2,176, $3,154 combined payment. And let's not forget healthcare. Even with a COLA increase, the cost of over-the-counter essentials and medical supplies continues to rise. The reality is that you are not exaggerating when you feel the pinch. Official data often shows that the cost of housing and healthcare, the two biggest expenses for seniors and the disabled, tends to rise much faster than the overall inflation rate. This creates an inflation gap where your purchasing power actually shrinks even though your check is getting bigger. This is exactly why it is so critical to understand every single dollar of that December 31st deposit. It's not just extra money for the holidays, it is your lifeline for a 2026 economy that isn't getting any cheaper. Being informed about this 2.8% increase allows you to see the reality of your budget clearly, so you can make the tough decisions now rather than being surprised by a shortage in mid-January. One common situation that affects these high payments is the offset. When someone receives both SSI and SSDI, SSI is needs-based, meaning it's reduced dollar for dollar by most other income. If your SSDI payment increases due to the 2.8% COLA, your SSI might decrease slightly to keep the total combined income stable under the rules. For example, if your SSDI goes up by $50, your SSI might drop by nearly that same amount, leaving your overall monthly total almost unchanged. This offset can feel frustrating, like you're not getting the full benefit of the increase, but it's how the programs interact. However, when you look at the total hitting the account on December 31st, it will still reflect the highest possible amount allowed under the new 2026 law. Speaking of state variations, the federal SSI program provides a baseline, but states can choose to add their own supplements. And this is how some people reach that $3,354 upper limit. States like California, New York, and Massachusetts offer some of the larger supplements, often adding hundreds of dollars extra per month. This means two people with similar disabilities might receive quite different monthly totals just because of their state. State supplements may adjust on their own schedule, separate from the federal COLA, and are sometimes paid separately or combined in one deposit. If you think your state adds one, check your deposit details on the 31st. Understanding what's available in your state can transform budgeting from a stressful guessing game into a more manageable, informed process. When it comes to how you actually receive these funds, The method you choose makes a world of difference in your financial security. Most of you now rely on direct deposit, which remains the gold standard because it is significantly faster and safer than any other method. For the upcoming payment, funds typically post to your bank accounts as early as midnight or the very first business hour on December 31st, 2025. This means while the rest of the world is preparing for New Year's Eve celebrations, your 2026 benefits will already be working for you. If you use the Direct Express SHAR, Debit MasterCard SHAR, you'll see that same speed, giving you immediate access to your cash without having to wait for a teller or a mail truck. On the other hand, if you are still receiving paper checks, I want to urge you to be extra cautious. Paper checks are subject to the whims of the holiday postal rush. With the massive volume of mail during the final week of the year, combined with federal office closures on January 1st, a paper check could easily be delayed by several days. If your check doesn't arrive exactly on the 31st, don't panic. But do recognize that this is the primary reason the SSA and financial experts recommend switching to electronic payments to avoid being left empty-handed during a holiday weekend. Now, let's talk about the January gap, because this is where the real challenge lies. When your January 2026 payment hits your account early on December 31st, it can create a false sense of security. It feels like extra money in your pocket just in time for the holidays. But remember, there will be no SSI payment during the first week of January. In fact, because February 1st, 2026 falls on a Sunday, your February payment will actually arrive on January 30th. This creates a nearly 31-day stretch where you must rely entirely on that December 31st deposit. To manage this successfully, you have to be disciplined. My best advice, prioritize your must-haves immediately. The moment that money hits on the 31st, set aside the funds for your January rent or mortgage, your heating bill, which is often highest this time of year, and your essential medications. Treat that December 31st deposit as your January survival fund rather than a year-end bonus. If you find that the math just isn't adding up, please don't overlook the federal programs specifically designed to bridge these gaps. For example, the Medicare Savings Programs, MSP, are a literal lifesaver. These state-run programs can pay your Medicare Part B premiums, which are rising to $202.90 a month in 2026. Think about that. If you qualify, that's over $200 back in your pocket every single month. Depending on your income level, an MSP might even cover your deductibles and copays as well. Additionally, there is the Extra Help Program, also known as the Low Income Subsidy. If you're struggling with the cost of prescriptions, this program can slash your drug costs significantly. In 2026, most people in the Extra Help Program will pay no more than $5, $10 for generic drugs, and $12.65 for brand name drugs. If you're already on SSI, you often qualify for these programs automatically, but it is always worth double-checking with your local Social Security office or through the official SSA.gov website to ensure you aren't leaving money on the table that could help you breathe a little easier during these long winter months. As we wrap up today's update, I want to leave you with a final thought. Navigating the world of Social Security, SSI, and SSDI can often feel like you're trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces are constantly changing, but you don't have to do it alone. If you found this breakdown of the $2,176, $3,254 payments helpful, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. By hitting that notification bell, you're ensuring that you are among the first to know whenever there is a critical update, a schedule shift, or a new policy change that affects your wallet. My goal is to keep you ahead of the curve so you never have to wonder where your next check stands. I also want to hear from you. Please drop a comment below and share your story. How is the 2.8% COLA going to affect your household? Are you seeing your rent or utility bills rise faster than your benefits? Or perhaps you have a specific question about how your concurrent benefits will be calculated on that December 31st deposit. I make it a point to personally read as many of your comments as possible because your real-world experiences help me know what topics to cover next. This channel is a community, and by sharing your experiences, you might just help someone else who is in the exact same boat. Remember, in a system this complex, staying informed is your greatest form of protection. Knowledge truly is power when it comes to managing a fixed income. Take the time this week to review your bank statements, check your official notices, and plan your January spending carefully. It might be a challenging stretch, but with the right information and a solid plan, you can navigate these changes successfully. Stay warm, stay proactive, and approach the new year with the confidence that comes from being prepared. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next update. This video is for educational purposes only and is based on publicly available information. It does not constitute financial or official SSA advice. Always verify details at ssa.gov.